Anger and despair reign supreme at Ubisoft as the hedge trimmers come out yet again to get another couple hundred people fired. Man, after the last couple of months, I'm just kind of happy that we can return to shitting on Ubisoft and to yet again hammer home the point that despite the absolute nuclear-grade cope of some, DEI is actually the problem with the majority of this, yes. DEI, quote, only improved things at Ubisoft, says former employee. Former employee. Pray tell, sir, how did you become a former employee at Ubisoft? Were you perhaps let go because the company's stock prices are averaging out around about $3 a pop now? Perhaps it was because you recently worked on one of their many, many monstrously unsuccessful products. Just throwing things out there, but okay. He is stunned that misinformation claiming diversity, equity, and inclusion to blame for Assassin's Creed Studios' drop in share prices. What is to be expected to be? I genuinely kind of want to know the reasoning here. So, this comes from a tweet in Japanese, by the way, saying, I won't quote them, but I'm astonished to see people spreading false rumors that Ubisoft's stock price fell because of its commitment to DEI. Well, over the course of the last 5 years, Ubisoft's stocks have fallen with 93%. And that was around about the same time as they fully embraced diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. This seems a little bit too much of a coinky-dinky-winky to be entirely natural. As a former employee, I can say with certainty the DEI advocates within the company didn't have much influence. In fact, DI was successful in particular improving the work environment, expanding into South America and the Middle East. Okay, so they didn't have a whole lot of influence, but they did have enough influence to make the game a company focused primarily on things like South America and the Middle East. I see. The decline in marketing and creative was due to big company disease, which can happen to any company. One example of this big company disease is that the turnover was so low that there was a clear lack of people with experience in online mobile free-to-play game development at senior and leadership levels. In addition, management issues specific to non-English speaking global companies arose when a company whose primary language is French established a branch outside of French-speaking countries. Okay, so your main quarrel here isn't that DEI destroyed the company by introducing things like, oh, I don't know, the Black Samurai and his unattractive Asian sidekick, but that the French refused to speak any other language than the French. Now, as funny as that would be, that the downfall of Ubisoft was caused because the French refused to speak in English, somehow, yet again, I find it difficult to believe, as of course Ubisoft recently committed an absolute slaughter of their roster here. Ubisoft announced it has cancelled 6 games, one of which is the Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake, and I just want to hammer that home as well. This wasn't a brand new IP here, this wasn't some long shot crazy idea, this was a remake of The Sands of Time, one of their most acclaimed and best games. A game, by the way, that according to reports was 90% finished, and yet was so bad that even after finishing the development of the game, over the course of something like a 3-year period, as we see here, after Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake cancellation, actress says she lost 3 years of work and found out via the internet. So 3 years of work, and Ubisoft just flushed this, to the point where they didn't inform even the people working on it that they were done. They just shuttered everything overnight and torched it. Again, I stress, this was a remake. How catastrophically compromised must your studio infrastructure be to ruin a remake to the point where you can't even push it out the door? This was the same company that chose to actually release Assassin's Creed Shadows. It was worse than that, okay? They also cancelled 4 of unannounced games, including 3 new intellectual properties and a mobile game. So, okay, fair enough. 3 new intellectual properties were unlikely to be successful, particularly as I have heard rumblings from within Ubisoft as well that basically any and everything that they were working on was DEI slop, with unattractive female characters out the wazoo, and that also was one of the leaks, of course, with the Prince of Persia remake as well, that apparently the Indian development team had turned the characters very aggressively brown looking in a non-good fashion, shall we say. The publisher will also allocate additional development time to 7 games to ensure the quality benchmarks are fully met and to maximize long-term value. Translation: we have 7 games that we still think maybe we can save if we commit to large-scale redesigns and rewrites. Yeah. Again, I've seen some of the concept art from some of these games from sources that shall remain unannounced. The problem is exactly what you think the problem is, and Ubisoft now actually knows it. It has been public knowledge for quite some time, for example, that one of the boss's kids, the Guillemot family or something like that, was recently brought back into Ubisoft after being kicked out in disgrace to head a group specifically designed to look at what Ubisoft is doing wrong and then fix it. I wonder what they're going to figure out there, indeed. And just in case we are still wondering if any of this has to do with DEI, well, there is now another round of 200 jobs being cut from Ubisoft. I'm half surprised anyone still works at this company, honestly, and it speaks to the sheer quantity of bloat they have had that they're just able to slice away jobs year after year after year, seemingly not giving a shit as to who they fire. Now, this one here then gives the explanation as to why. Anger and despair reigning supreme at Ubisoft following restructuring plan, says Union. Right. There's your DEI problem right there. You have an organization of politically motivated activists within your studio who has absolutely zero interest in actually making sure that the company continues to exist tomorrow, much less in 5 years' time. As what do you think their primary problems are with all of this? What do you think they're saying? Like, oh god, well, I mean, the company has lost 95% of its total value. We understand. We're going to help you make some cuts. We're obviously going to, tighten the belt buckle and make this company run, obviously. No, it's, we want decent pay rises. The union calls for an end to Ubisoft's cost-cutting plans, maintaining and extending remote work and decent pay rises this year. So the union's plan is stop firing people. We know you can't afford to pay them, but we don't care. We're literally parasites. Furthermore, you must allow people to work from home, which, again, is the thing. There are some people, a vanishingly tiny percent of people, who can work from home effectively and still get their job done. I am an example of that, but I only work for myself. If I don't do anything, well, I don't get paid. Whereas Ubisoft employees, regardless of how little they do or how much they ruin something, well, their check's already in the mail. And it has been demonstrated so many times that unions view employment not as something they need to fight for, not as something they need to achieve, but as some sort of God-given right, as if Jesus himself descended from the cross and said, "You, my child, will work for Ubisoft," regardless of how many games you burn in so doing. And, of course, a decent pay rise this year. Listen, part of me almost kind of respects the grift at this point, okay? You understand that you are vultures picking over a carcass, and all you're really interested in is getting one more strip of flesh peeled off the bone. I can sympathize, but Jesus, you are obviously the enemy. This, incidentally, is why I cheer on Rockstar when they just outright union bust, when they fire people simply for being a member of unions, because if you do not, you are going to have a group of political activists within your company whose sole singular dedication in life is to run you out of fucking business. Which brings us back to the DEI's only improving things statement. By increasing work quality, by making sure that people have a better life and better office conditions. That's lovely, but when all of these extra expenses are paired with an apparent and obvious inability to produce a video game that anyone actually wants to play, the results are pretty goddamn obvious, and I, for one, fucking cheer it. The slow, painful, and torturous collapse of Ubisoft will hopefully be a particularly gruesome message to the rest of the gaming industry, as we can but hope that their pillaged corpse, hung up for all to see, will remind all of the other companies to not let any unions take root in their companies, and to fight back against any suggestions of diversity, equity, and inclusion for all their goddamn worth. Especially now, as we're entering into a period where most of these companies, even Disney, are trying to reverse course, quite violently in some cases, as, the mass purge of games being cancelled or delayed. We've seen this at many other companies too, as they have finally figured out that, releasing a game that is blatantly, painfully woke is actually more damaging than not releasing it. Because sure, you're going to lose investment in it, you're going to lose all of the money you spent, but that is a tax write-off for perceived potential earnings in the future. Whereas releasing one of those games, you are now doing irreparable damage to your reputation as a company and turning yourself into an international fucking laughingstock. It is a turgid lesson to pick up on, it appears, but it is certainly one in force and taught with vim and vigor from the French. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.